Okay, welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Our presenter tonight is Thomas Eddington, who has more than 20 years of experience in design and community development. In his career role at CZB LLC, Eddington oversees urban design work and comprehensive planning. CZB is the company currently working with Impact Corry to create a community strategic plan that will prepare Corry for a revitalized future. Eddington, who is a member of the American Planning Association and the American Society of Landscape Architects, has been instrumental in the ongoing community strategic plan process and is once again lending his expertise to lead tonight's planning session regarding the Corry Rails and Trails Park, which is located at the intersection of Center and Main Streets. The park is slated to become a main focal point of the downtown, and input is being welcomed from residents, groups, organizations, and businesses as to what the finished product should look like. In addition to his time at CZB, Eddington spent 7 years as a planning director for Park City, Utah. He is a certified landscape architect with design experience in the United States and Japan, where he has demonstrated a strong commitment to the integration of planning and design. Eddington earned a master's degree in city planning from the University of Pennsylvania, and he is an avid outdoorsman and traveler. So thank you and welcome, Thomas. Thank you for being here. I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Erin. Hi, everybody. Thanks for the intro. That gives everybody a pretty good understanding of some of the work that we're doing right now in Corry. And so it's kind of exciting to get to step into a little bit more of a defined role, a refined role, to kind of start to explore some of the work with regard to the Rail and Trail Park. And so thanks for the opportunity. What I am hoping we can do tonight is keep this pretty casual. We're in the very early stages of really exploring some of the input that we've received from the community regarding the park and rail. Here, I've got a few people to let in here. Hang on, there. Regarding the rail trail park. But I'm hoping that tonight, as we walk through some of the input that we've received so far, some kind of high-level design ideas, that you all feel comfortable to interact, to ask questions, to say, heck no, that is not right. That is not where we're going with this. That is not what I imagined. Or, hey, that's a good idea. Because, as I said, we're early on in the process, and so any input is certainly welcome. That's why we're here tonight. So I've got a little slideshow that I thought we could walk through that will kind of give you all an understanding of the area and what our initial thinking is thus far. Can everybody see the screen okay? Is that
looks good?
That's good. Okay. So I'll just jump right into it. So I think that everybody is familiar with the area that we are discussing. So if you start to look at this area, you can see the main area on the left between Center and First Avenue is about 1 acre. You know, roughly from track to track, it's about 115 feet, and roughly from Center to First Avenue, it's about 750 feet. So it's about 1 acre in size that we have to work with, which is a pretty good area. Certainly, as you all know, it's well situated. It's located right in the downtown core. It kind of is that connecting tissue between kind of the southern end of downtown and the northern end of the downtown business district. The area on the right, which is kind of where it forms a bit of a triangle where the rail spur cuts off to the north, is about 1/2 acre. So in total, we've got about 1.5 acres to work with. To give you a bit of a larger context, as we have been working with the city of Corry and Impact Corry, we have really thought in detail with regard to some of the real gems, the community assets that you have, including Country Club, the Country Club, North Hills, certainly Mead Park, City Park, and then some of these opportunities to connect these areas, these parks, these assets with trails. And so that is one of the priorities included within the community strategic plan that we're working through. That's in process now. We're working with the steering committee. And so this input will help relate that direction at a more specific level. Obviously, if you look at the image on the left, it's kind of a zoomed in area of the downtown. Again, you can see the rail trail park, and you can see the area between Center and First would probably be phase one. Then phase two would be kind of that triangle area I talked about between Center and Maple. And then phase three may be an area that is more of an informal kind of passive area that might include that that larger area that kind of is also a triangle moving to the northeast. Again, part of the importance of this park is its opportunity to connect, to link the north and the south side of the downtown. So before we jump into some of our initial thinking, I'm hopeful that some of you maybe took the community survey and provided some input with regard to the park. But I thought we'd go through a few slides that just outline some of the input that we've received to date. And also, if you have thoughts, input, agreement, disagreement with any of these slides, don't hesitate to throw that out there, and we'll open it wide up for discussion. So this was, what are the top 3 installations or amenities that you think should be included in the rail trail trailhead park? As you can see here, significant number of people noted bike lanes, hiking lanes, bathrooms, showers, benches, seating, opportunities for entertainment, crosswalks, some restaurant food opportunities, some information mapping kiosks, kinds of installations that might inform what's going on in the community to visitors, etc. So that kind of gives us an idea that, you know, certainly this is an area for connecting people via pedestrian and bicycle opportunities. The second piece of input, and again, don't hesitate to throw out any thoughts if you think that something's missing from this input. What are some additional installation or amenity ideas that you think should be considered for this area? I won't read through all of these, but you can see here that, again, a significant number of people noted that it is an opportunity to convey information about the community, city, maps, wayfinding, certainly opportunities for walking dogs, social gathering, art, bathrooms, benches, farmers market opportunities. You can see this kind of runs the gamut. Significant amount of input here. So it gives us a pretty clear understanding that people want this to basically be almost an outdoor community center. They want this not only for hiking, biking, which is very important, but they also want this as a place to gather for a variety of venues, opportunities. It could be concerts, it could be performances, it could be just social gatherings, food trucks, you name it. They want to gather in this area. It's central, it's easy to get to. To the issue of performances, events, what do you think would be most accommodated, most likely to be accommodated here that you would like to see? Certainly you can see the top one included everything from music to festivals to speeches to pageants, etc. So again, people wanted this to simply be a community gathering space. You could see some very specific recommendations there, including, again, the farmers market, tractor exhibits, etc. What do you think would be the best use of the ticket office building when it's no longer used by Blue Zones? Most people thought that it should be a welcome center and or maybe have a retail component or a restaurant component, kind of maybe an opportunity to bring people to that area in the form of some sort of commercial development. So maybe wrapping kind of a visitor center slash retail or restaurant opportunity. What do you think would be the best use for the freight depot building? Again, some people noted restaurant opportunities there, but also restrooms, showers, and other opportunities. Maybe that could be for cyclists coming through town. Maybe there's an opportunity to someday down the line connect snowmobilers, et cetera, that might be utilizing this trail as an opportunity to not just pass by the outskirts of downtown, but actually to get into the town. If an additional building were to be added between the two existing historic buildings, what purpose might that serve? I think you can kind of, I'll let you read through that. I think that the opportunity for food service, the opportunity for public staging, the opportunity for performance area. Some people noted some examples of brewery opportunities that might fit in nicely in that area. Historic museum. Some people noted, hey, maybe we shouldn't really build there. Maybe we should hold off in that area and maybe fill that with other activities. Here, I'm letting some more people in. There we go. And then you can see, whoops. You could see that there was a final question with regard to kind of that step back building that's located on Main Street, a little bit to the east. Should we keep that building? Should that be preserved? Most people thought that it should be. It has an opportunity to maybe it could be used for residential. Maybe there's an opportunity for maybe some retail below, restaurant below on the first floor level. And for those that did think that it should be preserved, they got into some specific ideas with regard to, again, a pub, a distillery, that kind of thing. All of that would be well positioned in the downtown, and again, serve as that opportunity to connect the north and south area. So then we started to take all of this information and think about what might locate in that area. So what might a park look like? And some of these images indicate much of what we saw and heard in the surveys. And so maybe it's the opportunity for food. Maybe there's an opportunity for food trucks, kind of tying into that farmer's market. That could be kind of that temporary kind of service that offers gathering opportunities, that offers meeting opportunities during lunch, could be after work, etc. You'll see on the left two images, maybe there's park-like space that could be developed in this area. It could be somewhat formal, but it may be better positioned as informal space where people can move chairs, can move tables. Maybe it's something more akin to bring your own chairs, sit at a concert, kind of enjoy things in a more informal way. That would leave maybe lawn space available, kind of that green space that might be missing in this part of downtown. That would leave that available for kind of a park-like setting during the time that it was not used, but during the time that it was, it could start to fill up, you could stack, use it as you wanted. The image at the bottom right is kind of in an alley of trees, kind of in a formal setting, obviously, but just as an idea, this could be an area where we kind of start to frame the linear nature of the park along the tracks and maybe give it a bit of a buffer from the tracks themselves so that it's got a kind of a park-like qualitative characteristic when viewed from the outside if you start to line it with trees, but also that provides shade in the summer. It provides kind of a more park-like setting than what you see there now. So as we thought about this, we felt that maybe there's 2 or 3 almost rooms that are associated with the park. Here's an image that was taken from the back office building out toward the Blue Zone's office. And as you can see, it kind of gives you an idea of kind of the open nature of this area right now. If you're in the park, you definitely feel pretty close to the tracks. That's both a good and a bad thing, right? It's good because it's a very unique, authentic kind of setting, right? It can also be a little bit challenging in terms of safety issues and certainly sound issues. And so kind of using this image, we tried to think about a design that would frame this area, that would kind of give it a little bit of a sense of enclosure. And again, that kind of alludes back to the tree alley setting that I showed you in the prior image. So what I thought I would do, if there are any questions, don't hesitate to ask them. But we've got a few slides where we've walked through a pretty high level design concept, but the idea is to get you all thinking about what it might look like. And two, just give us a little bit of input. We're still going to continue to reach out to the community. As I said, this is a very initial design concept, but it's really to give people a little bit of an image, an idea to kind of noodle on. So again, let's kind of walk you through this. So this is the site, and in terms of a framework, you can see that you've got the main street, you've got Center, you've got First, and then over here you've got Maple. So really that is starting to set the framework for this area. That's the vehicular framework. But the real interest in this area lies with the tracks, actually, right? Hence the Rail Trail Park concept that we've been discussing. But everything about this park is framed by existing and utilized transit corridors. So this is the fundamental framework. Thinking about that, if we added a couple of components to the area between Center and First, maybe there is some hard space, some hardscape that is located over near the buildings. This might be that area that is more activated for farmers markets. This might be activated for gatherings, events. This might be activated as maybe a food truck market during the week, maybe after work. Any kind of social gathering could take place in this area. The left side could be a lawn. And again, this is kind of that open parkscape kind of area. So you've got two components within that block. Keep in mind, that block is about 750 feet long. It's pretty significant. It's important to connect the people and the cyclists through this area. So you could start to see a couple of tracks or a couple of maybe 10 or 12 foot wide paths that take you from east to west between the two primary transportation corridors. So you're starting to lay the framework. I mean, conceptually, you could start to think of this as a set of tracks within these two surrounding railroad lines. And then kind of that LA concept, that tree concept. What if we started to frame this area and give it some sense of vertical nature? In the downtown area, certainly as you walk down Center Street, there is a sense that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4-story buildings around you. It kind of frames that area. When you're in the actual Rail Trail Park, you don't have that sense of kind of a vertical nature surrounding you. So the idea of putting in an alley of trees to frame that buffers sound, number one. It offers this vertical nature, this vertical component that we were talking about. And then two, it kind of creates a natural barrier on both the north and the south side of the park to kind of direct people, keep them in the park, keep them away from the tracks. Again, that's a safety issue. On the west side, maybe that area where the trees are kind of highlighted in almost a pinkish reddish color, maybe those are ornamental trees. And again, this is kind of thinking about maybe the cherry blossom walk-in DC or something like that. These would probably be dogwoods, something like that, that would grow in this area. But it could be that kind of formal alley of trees in surrounding lawns. So this area is much more of a park-like area. These trees, again, are primarily designed to guide the user east to west and kind of keep them in the park area. Let's see, I have a couple of questions here. Hang on. Okay, I'll get to those questions in just a second. There's a discussion about parking and maybe the Climax engine, maybe bringing that to the park. That is an opportunity, and I'll get to that in just a second. So as we think about this, yeah, somebody just noted these trees here could be, if they were maple, they've got that kind of red color. But again, this is framing the area. You've got the hardscape, you've got the softscape, and you've got these, I think you can see my cursor. You've got the tracks, the bike ped walkway. Oh, no, I lost my cursor. That can cross the street and start to connect the park over to the east side of Center Street. And then maybe there's an opportunity to kind of think symbolically, to think conceptually, to maybe overlay tracks. This is hardscape. This would be, again, pavement. It could be paving pattern, pavement, pavers in a pavement pattern. Maybe this lighter gray color is maybe crushed granite, kind of that granite you often see at national parks that has kind of got a very natural characteristic to it, kind of relates to the railroad rock that's embedded in the tracks. But this starts to frame this area as a gathering space, kind of gives a little bit of texture, a little bit of context in terms of the existing historic buildings that are in the area, and then brings the user across the road. As you come across the road, maybe there's a small plaza here that relates to the street. Again, it could be a gathering spot. It could be a food truck spot. It could just be what it is initially designed for in this layout as an entry to kind of this very natural treed area, maybe with a bark path. This would just be a grove of natural trees. This area wouldn't be in this design as actively used as the left side. This would be more of a passive area, more of a very natural park-like area. So you've got the formality on the west side and kind of the informality on the east side. We're also noting here, if you can still see my cursor, an entry down to the parking area along Main Street, just so that people would have ease of accessibility to this area and not just have to enter here. If we thought about this area in detail, we'd probably think about activating it with maybe a pub or a diner. I think that there is a tendency to maybe just think about that front building as maybe a community center or a visitor center, but perhaps the real opportunity is to start to draw more people there. Maybe, again, a pub, maybe it's a diner, maybe it's something that attracts people on a daily basis, just to start to bring them in so that the use of the park doesn't have to be fully programmed, number one, and two, not dependent upon tourists to keep it looking busy, to keep it busy. And so maybe that area between the Back Depot building and the pub diner building, again, plaza area, tables, chairs, probably free moving so that people can use it as they want. That could be the hardscape area. And then just to the left of that westernmost building could be kind of a staging area. This could be a performance area. People could sit
Thomas, I'm
Yep.
so sorry to interrupt you.
Nope,
There's somebody who's trying to get in.
There's a couple.
There's a
there they
couple.
are.
to get.
Okay, there they are.
All right,
Yeah,
thank
don't
you.
hesitate to remind me of that. It doesn't pop up on my screen. I have to
Yeah,
just keep tapping it,
I think it kind of shifts around because with the share screen, it's probably not right there like it normally would be. So I'll just interrupt you.
Yep, that's fine. No worries.
Okay.
Chelsea's coming in just a second.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. So again, this could be kind of that performance area stage, and people could stack up here. They could stand, they could sit, they could bring their own chairs in this more formal lawn area. Again, when it's not used, it's really a park-like kind of relaxing area. And so this is just an initial concept. It's really just an initial stab based upon what we've heard in the community survey, what we've heard in our public outreach, and just based on our site visits and input to date. So it was just kind of a thought to get everybody thinking. And so I'm hoping that maybe you all have some discussion points that maybe, that you would like to talk through. There's another person coming in. And I am more than happy to answer questions or give you more detail in terms of the thought behind the design. I know that there were a couple of questions with regard to parking. And one was, is there really ample parking adjacent to this area for easy access? I think given the parking that exists in the downtown and certainly along Main Street, the answer to that is probably yes. If there was a desire or if there was a concern that there might be more programming that specifically brought people to this area, maybe this area to the west, maybe the lawn area shrinks, and maybe there's some parking that could be implemented down in that area. But our initial thinking is hopefully people are activating the downtown Center Street, the Main Street area, and they would walk into this space just to keep more feet on the street. So thoughts about that? Do you think that there's enough parking? Do you think that that is a bigger concern than perhaps maybe we thought?
I have a thought which may surprise Chuck. I don't think you want to lose this lawn and the area to the west there, because if you're going to have festivals and things like that with vendors and that, you're going to need a place to set people up. If anything, the buildings that aren't developed on East Main that there's talk about refurbishing and stuff, there could be an opportunity there for parking. But even that, I could foresee this grove of trees and soft trail and meadow area not getting utilized like the stuff to the west side of Center Street. And maybe you put parking over there, but I wouldn't cut into the stuff on the west side.
Reserve this area, and if anything, use this as parking first.
Yep. And then you got the crosswalks and they can cross over to the park from the parking on that side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that does make sense. I think that our initial thinking for this being kind of a natural treat space is probably not as much for use, but really as much as kind of the opportunity to frame a view shed to kind of, again, give some vertical elements to that area that's otherwise pretty darn open and flat. But yeah, that could easily be parking first.
Because as you look at it now with the whistle stop in the upcoming downtown with businesses and stuff, there is no place for a bus to park. If you had a bus that came through and wanted to spend 2 hours shopping in Corry on a bus route or bus tour coming through Route 6, there's nowhere to put them.
Mm-hmm. Nope, that's a good point. Anyone else on parking? Any thoughts on that? Looks like a couple of folks noted that right now there's probably not enough sufficient foot traffic, so people will want to park nearby. So maybe parking in and or closer to the park. Okay. Any other initial thoughts as I look at some of the questions? Just bear with me.
Thomas,
Yes.
could we think about, since people would be entering from the Erie to Pittsburgh Trail through Maple there down by the Diamond, rather than a crushed gravel, could we look at that as an asphalt path? And then we could potentially use some of the park to the east as additional parking. So you could get access to everything in a wheelchair or a stroller, bike. Just a thought. And
So
some,
maybe bringing this asphalt trail all the way through
yeah.
here to connect in.
And the meander looks great, no issue with that. But that way, if we did include more parking to that way, it wouldn't be an impediment for people. And also Kim had brought up that perhaps we could see about gaining some of the Ajax property. But we still have to cross an active line. So we'd have to think about that too.
Mm-hmm. No, I like the idea of maybe bringing this trail all the way over, because that is where the rail trail would enter. Again, this path, the idea is it's almost no path, maybe a soft path, and this is wide open for discussion, but it's just that very informal area. Okay.
Oh, they think I'm you.
It's John.
Any other thoughts, any other concerns, or anything that you think in terms of a big picture that we might be missing?
Hey, Thomas, this is Kim. I guess I'm just thinking, I mean, I like the trees, I love trees, but depending on some of the activities that we've talked about, it might be good to have a little bit more open space, someplace. And I know you've got the stage there, but I don't know if that would give us, kind of enough, open space to really kind of feel the space that we have.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you think that that open space would be better served on the west side of center or on the east side of center?
I mean, I'm not certain. I'd like I like the ornamental trees and things that you have. I'm trying to envision how much space that you actually have there. But I think possibly on the west side of center, kind of in between, not all the way over to First. We definitely have some trees over by First, but maybe in between the buildings that we have and some of those ornamental trees that you actually just have, a little bit more open space. And maybe it's just simply that the tree spacing is, further expanded than what we've got right now showing.
Okay. Yep, we can look at that. And just for the record, so everybody's aware, those trees are roughly spaced about 30, 35 feet on center. So they might look a little closer here. Actually, they might look a little tighter, but they are probably 30, 35 on center, give or take. Somebody asked about maybe some equipment to encourage kids to play. I think that there is an opportunity for that. I think that that's probably something that we want to better understand. Is this an area that we think we want to bring kids into? We'll certainly have a need for certain barriers, et cetera, to protect people when they're in this area. But any thoughts on that?
Since both rail lines are going to remain active, we were hoping to both fence against people running into the rail lines, as well as make City Park more of a child interactive, maybe with a splash pad, all those kind of things that kids are looking for. But since we don't have a wide space to keep kids from running into tracks, to focus this more for adult entertainment hangout, not that we wouldn't permit kids, but it wouldn't be as much gross motor movement.
In Mead Park's pretty kid friendly already. I mean, we have a spot.
Hey, this is Julie. The question was posed by me. I was just thinking, young families hopefully will come and the kids are going to be milling around, and maybe there's a way to design something in the pavement that, you kind of keep them busy, or, something like that. I realize there are definite safety concerns with the active track. So, but just thinking about the kids that their parents are gonna want to go congregate over there, and giving the kids something to keep them busy. Just a thought.
Yeah, I think there might be some opportunity to maybe create some sort of amenities that maybe aren't attractors for kids, but at least can keep them busy. And I think that you're right, probably maybe in that pavement area is probably both the most visible area and maybe the safest area as a result. Somebody asked about, will the stage be fully visible with all of the trees to the west? Could outdoor movies also be shown? The idea there is that yes, it would be visible to the west, and actually from first looking in, you should be able to see all the way through the trees into the stage. And keep in mind that area is about from track to track, you're at about 120 feet wide. So that area is probably between the trees, you're looking at maybe 70 feet maybe. And so it's a pretty open space all the way down to be able to view the stage, and you could show movies there.
And Thomas, are you envisioning like a sidewalk or a path or anything, through those ornamental trees?
Did you say a bike lane or a path? Is that what you said?
Yeah, either, like a sidewalk, a bike lane, it's just something so that people could actually walk on a paved surface.
Yes. So actually, can you see my cursor right here over near First?
Yep.
So right there, that would be a pedestrian bike path right there. That would probably be somewhere between 8 and 12 feet wide right there.
So
And
on the
then there would be
outside of
one-
the trees, not in
Yeah.
between the trees.
It'd be right on the outside of the trees, keeping the trees on the inside so that the folks on the path benefit from the trees, shade, etc. But also keeping the trees on the inside so that their branches don't interrupt the movement of the trains. We have to have the trees set back a certain distance. And
Okay.
so that was why the path was on the outside. And I
Okay.
think Chuck said earlier, there would probably have to be some sort of a fencing or rail or some sort of a barrier on the outside of those paths, just from a safety perspective, and probably, again, from just a desire to start to delineate that space. But yeah, there would be, those two paths would run the entire length of the park.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other thoughts as you guys look at this? Again, this is a first stab. By no means is this it, right? This is just a first stab to help people really start to think about what could be in that place. One of the things we didn't want to do is over design it or over plan it, right? It's got a pretty passive kind of feel to it right now. It's not really used for anything, right? Except often people cutting through, and the offices that are there, right? But it was important from our perspective, and you can let us know if we got that right, to make sure that the park had a nice kind of visual context when you were outside of the park, because it won't be used every day. It won't be used all the time, right? There's no way to program it. There's not that much of a population downtown right now. And so it had to we didn't want to over design it where it looked underused when it wasn't being used. We wanted it to look passive and look like it was additional green space for the downtown. Um,
I wanted to throw out too, if it's financially feasible and everything else to save the step back buildings. There was a design drawn up that put a back deck on them. So it would be kind of overlooking the park and could be an eating area as well. That was just one thought, so I'm throwing it out there.
Chuck, can you
I-
have Thomas kind of, use his cursor and point to which buildings you're referring to?
This building right here.
Just that one?
Yes. No, I think there's a pretty wonderful opportunity to use that and to get, I keep losing my cursor, to get some maybe balconies on this side overlooking this area. I think it would be pretty impressive. It's kind of, there's kind of a uniqueness to being located next to a rail line. And so I think the building also has some pretty interesting architectural character. It's a little bit quirky in many ways, right? But I think it could be a pretty good asset to the entire area. Some people noted maybe healthier food options instead of diner or pubs. Did somebody have a question? I'm sorry, I might have interrupted.
No, this is Julie again. It's just, I agree, you want food and beverage, and just knowing that there are several bars along that strip, wanting to, since we're trying to promote health, ideally, people walking, getting out, engaging, but that there's, a healthier option there rather than the typical. And then I also had a question about water. I realize you just, Chuck mentioned having water activities for kids in the city park. Is there any merit to maybe doing something with water in here? A water feature like for relaxation, meditation, that kind of thing. May
Chuck,
not
you
be
might
worth it.
I think Chuck's talking, she's on mute though. Oh, maybe she's not. From our perspective, we had initially thought about looking at a water feature, maybe in the area right at Center Street to draw people in. I think that the issue initially for us was to think about the cost of that, the maintenance of that, and to think about, the winter months can be pretty hard on a fountain if you live in an environment in the north. But I love the idea of incorporating something in there. I think it might be a cost issue. Chuck, did you have any issues or did you have any thoughts with regard to a water feature? Had that been discussed prior? I couldn't remember.
Yeah, we had,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we were talking about the step back buildings here and I kind of missed the last part of that. I have nothing against a water feature. The only thing is when we learned that one of the lines wouldn't be deactivated, it kind of took out of the equation a splash pad in this park. So it would have to be a more contained interactive fountain. There's funding available to also integrate art, and we're looking at interactive, purposeful, or movement-based art along the trail as well. Does that answer well enough, or was there an exact question?
No, that's terrific. Great idea.
And Chuck, when the Climax engine that they just brought back is fully restored, is that intended to have kind of a park of its own? Is it going to stay over by Mead Park? Is it intended to kind of come down into this area?
I'm going to let Buzz address this. For what I know so far, though, is that the Climax engine has a home currently, and it's going to be fitted out with memorabilia, become its own attraction. However, the cool thing about the Climax is it can run on wooden tracks. So literally they want to do portable demonstration events. They want to be able to go out and run their train and draw people to it, because it will be a huge attraction. So otherwise I am up for the Climax engine if Corry Rails wants it in our park at any time, but I'm going to turn it over to Buzz, who's part of Corry Rails.
Well, as far as Corry Rails is right now, people need to understand, we will not have a running, movable locomotive for at least 24 to 30 months. So this is not an automatic thing. It's going to take us a couple of years to get it together. During that time, the building that it's being put together in is going to serve as a museum. We just, in fact, received a headlight assembly that was made by Climax, not for this exact unit, but some folks in California sent it to us. So we're going to be getting a lot of items that we're going to be warehousing on display, but warehousing them until we get it up and running. During the construction, then all the ideas are going to be floated around to find out where the final home is going to be. And this area is one of the possibilities. There are others already in the works as well, but this area would be one of those.
And just so folks know, Corry now has both, well, we will have a functioning A. We have a B at the museum. If I know it's down the line, but there are talks, if we could acquire a C engine, we would be the only place in the world, as far as I know, that has all three Climax engines available for public viewing, which would be a strong tourist draw.
Sure, at this point, we will be the only place in the world with an A.
Yeah, with a working A.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry. Start talking trains, I don't stop.
Well, and Chuck, the thing that I was thinking, this is Kim again, since Corry really, had its start around the railroad, anything that we can kind of incorporate, especially since we're in between two railroads. And I think, to Julie's, question as far as, something for kids to kind of keep them occupied, even if there was just a very short set of tracks with, I don't even know what they're called, but kind of like the hand pump, that would go back and forth or around in a circle, since this is a rail park, if we could incorporate something like that, I think it would be kind of cool.
Awesome. And also with the passive park that Thomas is talking about to the east, there's actually abandoned sidings over there where we could potentially park full-scale pieces of a climbing feature, things like that. And that might be an area where the Climax could actually run back and forth and not be impacting on the hike bike trail as well, because that's a big open area. And when they get up and running, they're going to draw a lot of folks. It's a larger potential stretch for people to be on.
So Chuck and Buzz, just so I understand, with regard to the Climax engine, it'll actually move back and forth? And if so, what's the distance that something like that needs roughly? I mean, how far would that go?
Well, first of all, yes, when we are done, it will be a functioning locomotive. It will go under its own steam, under its own power, up and down a tracked area. I can't answer the exact question of how far would it go, but I would think in its state and in the value of it, it won't go out of our eyesight. I mean, it's, a couple of city blocks at a time, maybe a half a mile, but we're not even to that stage of talking about that yet. As far as Corry Rails goes, So I don't even know. I can't answer that.
Well,
Because there is discussion. It will also run on steel, but it's a narrow gauge, so it will not run on today's tracks. However, many places put in a third rail. And we would have possibly the availability to doing that. And maybe something along the lines of, from center, maybe out to Shady, Shady Avenue, something like that, and then turn around and come back. Out by Walmart is what I'm getting at, somewhere in that area, maybe.
but that would include adding a third rail to existing rails and working alongside the railroad. And those sidings that have been abandoned, if we could put it in there, it could be, I know you guys probably don't want it out of doors all the time, but
Oh, never.
yeah, it could
Just
be,
during the day we drive it.
it could be a parking area for people to tour it in between. The radical optimists of Corry Rails have talked about going the whole way out to Blackbridge, which they said would be like a 16-mile circuit in total. But that means constructing tracks. It's huge. So I think what Buzz is saying for our start look is more achievable and reality based.
Chuck, I mean, obviously they've got to get, the A back together and running and all those kind of things. But as a kind of an interactive, feature, at the park, with kind of a kiosk or whatever, if we had something that said, hey, here's kind of part of the history of Corry and here's what they're working on, et cetera. And so the people could kind of see that. But one of the things that would be cool, and I don't know if we can do that or kind of mimic it, is, wouldn't it be neat if there was some billboards or whatever that had all here's the history, here's what the people are doing, here's the progress on rebuilding this engine, but that there was something there that people could actually kind of, pull the cord and blow a climax engine, kind of horn, whatever that sounded like, just to kind of bring more of that railroad feel, into this railroad park.
That's very cool. I love that idea. Also, wait, the first part of it, something came to mind. Say the first part again.
I was just saying, having some type of a kiosk or whatever that is kind of a, here's the update of, here's the progress that we're making. And if you want to see, the climax B or whatever, go over here, here's the, historical society, right? And here's where you will see the B. And then maybe there's a window you can peek through to see the progress on the A.
And wayfinding is going to be a big part of this. But we're also, we didn't get the money yet, but we've also talking about a virtual docent. So anytime you visit Corry, literally where you are on your smart device, you could access information about everything. It would actually interact with Google Maps, so it could lead you right to the Historical Society. It would give you links, it would give you video. So essentially all the assets that we have in Corry would be like a virtual tour guide for you to get around. And again, any physical signs we put up would be reinforced with that, so people could find it and find their way electronically too.
Thanks for that, Chuck. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Again, this is early in the process, and this design will continue to evolve. We'll continue to get more and more input, and so if you have any input now, we would love to hear it. But again, we'll be going back and forth with this for a while.
Hey, this is Julie again. Is there data? I'm sure there is. Do you guys have data on, the expected foot traffic for such an area, like so that adjacent businesses, can kind of encourage development and, that kind of thing?
Well, you bring up a good issue, and that is, part of the challenge of doing this kind of a park is, one, addressing the local needs, and two, addressing visitor needs. And we've discussed both throughout the conversation tonight. And so as we did think about this, we primarily thought of this as addressing local needs. But by default, if something is done well locally, if something is done well authentically for a local population, typically tourists are drawn to that, right? And so if we think about it in that context, I think that this would attract additional people downtown and draw people to the businesses. It would also act as in a symbiotic way and draw people from businesses downtown, from offices downtown, and offer them an opportunity to gather and or relax in kind of a park-like setting, or meet for a gathering or a social event that might be taking place here. We don't have exact numbers on that yet, and we haven't really honed in on the detail of what kind of events would be here. A lot of that has to do with programming, but as we do go a little bit further into this, we'll start to get an idea of numbers. Somebody noted Lamar's property. Chuck, could you tell me where that is here? I'm not sure which property that is.
It's the two black specks right at the corner there of South Center.
Yeah, so I was on mute. It's right across
Oh.
from the Impact Corry offices.
Yep.
Oh, right here.
We are
Okay.
approaching a few different ways of getting rid of those. And the city has authorized other places within, they're the only two billboards in the city that got grandfathered in that billboards could be within city limits. The city has authorized that they can be moved to different locations. Lamar did a soft pass on that. We have a few other approaches to make. We have the ultimate power of eminent domain, but we really do, it would be an expensive and probably litigious path to follow. So we're trying to do some other things to get rid of those, but we are in agreement. They will not enhance the park.
That's helpful. Okay. I just wasn't sure which two they were. Here they are.
Yep, that's it.
Okay. Any other thoughts, any other concerns, questions before we let you go? I know it's been about an hour, and I think that was our rough instructions. Any thoughts, any input? And if not, I think that, Aaron, I think that you guys will continue to put this link out there so that people have it, and we will continue, of course, to work with the community when we're in and out of town as well.
Correct.
The only thing I need to add is the tree lawn and row to the west of the park. A portion of that park has been retained by the rail authority. So we're going to have to negotiate to get that part of the area. I love the idea. And I mean, I want to walk and ride down that path personally in every season, but we're going to have to do a little more work with the rail authority.
And that's over in the western area you said toward First?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Great. If nothing else, that's all we have. But again, we'll be working with you all over the next couple of months, and we're hoping to get back into town, assuming COVID allows for that. And at that time, maybe we could almost do some sort of a design charrette where we could actually be in a space together. It's a little bit easier than trying to do it over Zoom. But if not, if COVID doesn't allow for that, we can certainly reconnect over Zoom. But we really appreciate the input, the opportunity. And again, definitely think of this as a base. It's a first draft. It's a first start. But thank you. Thank you all. Thanks for the opportunity, Aaron.
You're welcome, Thomas. Hang on one second.
Thomas, could you explain to folks who aren't familiar with the term what a design charrette would do? or B?
Sure. So, a design charrette is really an opportunity to kind of, if we were allowed to gather, assuming the pandemic and safety precautions allowed for that, if we could be in a space, you know, it's an opportunity to put up some conceptual designs in a room. Maybe they're on a computer screen, maybe they're on an overhead, maybe they're on paper actually, but then to maybe break people out into groups and kind of to start honing in on some of the details of what those designs might encompass. For example, different materials, different, maybe slightly different conceptual ideas even, but to really get people actively involved in how the design might, how it might ultimately end up at in the final stage.
Thank you.
And thank you again, Thomas, for your time tonight. We really appreciate you being here. And just a plug for December, our next third Thursday will be Thursday, December 17th. We'll be back to our 6 o'clock time slot. So watch for more information about our speaker and the topic coming out in the next couple weeks. And thank you everyone for logging on tonight.
Thanks, everyone.